everyone. Do you ever write letters? Yes, you write letters during your examination, right? A letter to editor, letter to principal, letter to manager, etc. But have you ever seen people writing letters to God? It happens. There are some people in this world who have that much faith in God that they write letters to God. They feel as if God will help them. In some movies, you might have seen some kids writing letters to God. They have the faith that God will one day help them. You might also have written, but you might not have sent the letters. You might have written or scribbled on your notes or in your textbook and all during examination time, asking or seeking help from God in order to escape from the examination or to get good marks. Am I right? This story, A Letter to God, written by G.L. Fuentes, is about the nature of belief. The protagonist of this story, Lencho, had that much faith in God that he wrote a letter to God. Let us see what he wanted from God, whether he got it or whether he was sad because of writing that letter. Before moving on to the story, we have to know about the writer. A Letter to God is written by G.L. Fuentes, a Mexican writer. Let's know more about the writer G.L. Fuentes.
Mr. G.L. Fuentes was born on 17th November 1895 in Mexico. In his youth, he spent much time in his father's general store where he came in contact with the Indians, farmers and laborers of the region whose lives he later described in his works. After unsuccessful efforts at poetry and novels, he began to draw upon his experiences in the Mexican Revolution. Later on, he became a teacher of literature at a school in Mexico City. His most celebrated work is El Indio, the Indian, published in 1935. He died on 10th December 1966.
We can read the lesson part by part. In each part, some new vocabularies are there. I'll give you the meanings, synonyms and antonyms. Followed by it, the summary of each part. Okay?
The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. Here, entire means whole, complete. Crest means top or peak, top of a hill. So, that was the only house in that entire valley, and it was on the top of a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn touched with flowers that always promised a good harvest. Here, dotted means spotted or marked. So from that height, what can be seen? The river as well as the field with ripe corns. And that promised a good harvest also. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour or at least a shower. So what is needed at that time? Downpour. What do you mean by downpour? Heavy rain. And what is shower? A light rain. So the only thing needed was a downpour or at least a light rain. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. So our protagonist, Lencho, he knew his fields intimately. Here, what do you mean by intimately? personally or closely. He knew every detail of his field. Okay, so what he was doing, he was looking at the sky.
Now we're really going to get some water, woman.
The woman who was preparing supper replied,
Yes, God willing.
that means at any time it may rain. The older boys were working in the field while the smaller ones were playing near the house until the woman called to them all, Come for dinner. It was dinner time and everybody was called for dinner. It was during the meal that, just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. The air was fresh and sweet. Predicted. What do you mean by predicted? Foretold, foreseen, or forecasted. Huge means enormous. So enormous mountains of clouds could be seen, and the air was fresh and sweet. The man went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. So he went out to enjoy the rain.
These aren't raindrops falling from the sky, they are new coins.
Lencho compares the raindrops to new coins.
The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5.
Here Lencho says that big drops are 10-cent pieces and the smaller ones are 5 cents. Cent is actually the unit of money. Okay, 100 cent is equal to 1 peso. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. Here, draped means covered. So he had that imagination of his field which was covered with rainwater. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. Hailstones. Hard balls of ice that falls from the sky like rain. How it is formed? Hail is a type of frozen precipitation that forms inside a thunderstorm. Hailstones develop when solid ice encounter liquid water at below freezing temperatures. It falls when it becomes too heavy to remain in the cloud or when the updraft weakens. Hailstones range in size from that of a pea to that of a baseball. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls.
It's really getting bad now. I hope it passes quickly.
It didn't pass quickly. For an hour the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. The hailstones continued falling for an hour. The field was white as if covered with salt. Look at this. The field was completely filled with hailstones as if it is covered with salt. That shows the sadness. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plants. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons,
A plague of locusts would have left more than this. The hail has left nothing.
Locust means insects which fly in big swarms or in groups and destroy the crops. That night was a sorrowful one.
All our work for nothing. There's no one who can help us. We'll all go hungry this year.
Lencho and his family lived in a solitary house on the top of a low hill. From that height, One could see the river as well as the cornfield, which was dotted with flowers that was expecting a good harvest. The only thing that the earth needed was just a downpour or at least a shower. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who was so intimate to his field, was just looking at the sky towards the northeast to see whether there was a sign of rain or not. When he went back, he told his wife that they were going to get rain. The woman who was preparing supper agreed with him by telling, God willing. The elder children were working in the field and the younger ones were playing near the house. At that time, the wife called everyone for dinner. It was at that time, while they were having the dinner, there was the sign of rain as Lencho predicted. In the northeast, they could see huge mountains of clouds approaching nearer and nearer. The earth was sweet. Everybody was happy. Lencho went out in order to enjoy the rain. When he reached home, he told that those were not just raindrops, they were new coins. The bigger drops were 10-cent pieces and the smaller ones were 5-cent pieces. That shows that since rain was there, they are going to get a good harvest and they are going to achieve a good amount so that they could live for the entire year. Everybody was happy at that time. With a satisfied expression, with a satisfied feeling, Lencho regarded his ripe cornfield with flowers and draped with a curtain of rain. He was so happy at that time. But all on a sudden, there was a strong wind, and along with rain, hailstones began to fall. At that time, those hailstones resembled silver coins. Children went out in order to gather those frozen pearls. Their frozen pearls refers to the hailstones which appeared to be like silver coins. Lencho understood what's going to happen. He wanted the rain to be stopped. He prayed, but it didn't. It lasted for 1 hour. The hailstones fell on the entire valley, his field, on the top of his house. When it was over, he went to the middle of the field and he found that his field was totally destroyed. The leaves were gone from the trees. The flowers were gone from the field, cornfield. It was totally destroyed. He told his children that even a plague of locusts, if those insects might have attacked this cornfield, then also some part might have left. But now everything destroyed. He was so sad that he told his children and wife that they are going to starve during the whole year. Nobody would be there to help them. They were all very sad. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. Here, solitary means existing alone, lonely, single. Hope means wish, desire, aspiration. So the people lived in that house in the middle of the valley had a single hope. What was it? Help from God.
Don't be so upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. That's what they say. No one dies of hunger.
All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help of God.
whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Conscience means a moral sense of right or wrong, the sense to know the right thing and the wrong thing. So, on that particular day, he was just thinking about that hope, the help from God. He knew very well. So, he was instructed that God sees everything, even what is deep in our mind. Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. The expression ox of a man means hard worker. He works like an animal. He knew how to write also. The following Sunday, at daybreak, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. He wrote like this:
God, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes, because the hailstorm.
So what he needed from God was 100 pesos. Here peso is actually a currency of several Latin American countries. So he needed 100 pesos. For what purpose? In order to sow his field and to live until the new crop comes. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still troubled went to town. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. Laughing heartily. Heartily means wholeheartedly, sincerely. So that postman found the letter to God. So that's why he started laughing. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. So it was for the first time he is getting an address like that. The postmaster, a fat and amiable fellow, also broke out laughing. But almost immediately he turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk commented,
"What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter. Starting up a correspondence with God."
Here faith means complete trust in someone, that belief, reliance, credence, etc. What do you mean by correspondence? Communication by exchanging letters. Here we can also say the meaning as agreement. Agreement with God. So, in order not to shake the righteous faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. Answer the letter. But when he opened it, it was evident that to answer it, he needed something more than goodwill, ink, and paper. Goodwill means that friendly, helpful, or cooperative feelings or attitude. Synonyms for goodwill: benevolence, compassion, etc. And what is the antonym? Hostility. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. He stuck to his resolution. Stick, stuck, stuck. Here stuck means fixed. He was fixed to his resolution. He asked money from employees, apart from his salary was taken, and other friends were obliged. Obliged means make someone legally or morally bound to do something. Okay, so that is obliged. We can say it as compelled or forced. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos. So he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho, and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature: God.
Although the family knew very well that they have to starve the whole year because of the destruction of field, there was a single hope in them. What was it? The help from God. Lencho told that nobody dies of hunger. Throughout the night, he was just thinking about that hope, help from God. He knew very well that God will definitely help him because God knows everything. God even knows what is there deep in the sense of a person, deep in the mind of a person. Lencho was an ox of a man. That means he was a hard-working person like an ox. Throughout the morning, throughout the day and night, he worked in the field. Then also he was literate. He knew how to write. So he decided to write a letter to God. The following Sunday, he started writing the letter. He wrote like this. Actually, he wanted God to help him so that his family won't starve the whole year. He wanted or he needed 100 pesos so that he could sow his field and he could live till the crop comes. He explained everything about the hailstones, what happened to his field, everything. And after completing the letter, he kept it inside an envelope, and on the top of the envelope he wrote, "To God." He decided to take him by himself to the town, to the post office. So he went to the post office and then kept a stamp, placed a stamp on the top of the envelope and kept it in the mailbox. One of the employees, the postman, read the address to God. It was for the first time he was reading an address like to God. So he was laughing a lot. He laughed a lot and then took this letter to the postmaster. The postmaster, a fat and amiable person, he also laughed along with him. But immediately he stopped laughing because he was moved by the faith, by knowing the faith that the person had in God. He also wished to get the same faith that Lencho had in God, a correspondence with God. So he decided to help Lencho by answering the letter. He was not ready to move or to destroy the faith that Lencho had in God. But when he opened the letter, he found that not only ink and paper is needed, but more than goodwill. What is needed? Money. It was not possible for the postmaster to help him by giving 100 pesos. So he started collecting the amount from the employees, a part taken from his salary, and he also asked money from his friends as an act of charity. Then also he was not able to collect 100 pesos. Whatever he got, a money little more than half what Lencho needed, was kept inside an envelope. And then a letter was also kept, and nothing was written on the letter, only a signature, God. He doesn't want to destroy the faith that Lencho had in God. That's why he had written the signature, God.
The following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. Here contentment means satisfaction. Looked on. Watch without getting involved. Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence. But he became angry when he counted the money. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. Synonyms for denied: refused, rejected, declined, etc. Immediately, Lencho went up to the window to ask for a paper and ink. On the public writing table, he started to write, with much wrinkling of his brow caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp which he licked and then affixed to the envelope with a blow of his fist. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. It said, "God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. But don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks." Lencho. Crooks means people who are dishonest or criminals. Synonyms: dishonest, culprit, offender, delinquent, lawbreaker, etc. In this situation, irony is used. The climax is entirely different from what we have expected. The postmaster and the employees who had helped Lencho were considered to be crooks or culprits.
The next Sunday, Lencho reached post office earlier and asked if there was a letter for him. The postman himself handed over the letter to him. The postmaster was looking at Lencho. He was experiencing that satisfaction by helping someone. But when Lencho collected that envelope, there was not even a slightest change on his face. That much faith he had in God. But when he counted the money, he became angry, because God will never make mistake, and he will never deny what Lencho asked also. So he went directly to the window and asked for a paper and ink, and he wrote a letter. The anger could be seen on his face. He completed the letter, asked for a stamp, attached it, and kept it in the mail. Immediately, the postmaster went to take that letter. He wanted to see the expression of Lencho. He thought that that gratefulness could be seen in that letter. But what Lencho had written? Lencho wrote to God that he didn't receive the amount that God had sent. He got only 70 pesos. And he asked for the rest of the money because he needed that money. And he also added that never send the money through mail because the post office employees have deceived him. How is the story? Interesting, right? Lencho had such a faith in God that he never expected that the money was given by the post office employees. He thought that the money was given by God through the post office, and these members of or employees of this post office might have taken the money. That's why he wrote that letter by telling that he wanted the rest of the money and not to send it through mail, because the members or the employees of that post office were culprits or dishonest people. So that much faith he had in God. The story depicts two types of conflicts, one between man and nature and the other one between men themselves. In the beginning, Lencho was expecting, or he was praying to have rain. When it started raining, he was very happy, he was overjoyed. But all on a sudden, there was a strong wind and hailstones began to fall. The entire field was destroyed. What he expected was to have a good harvest, but nature was against it. Nature destroyed the entire field. On the other hand, when he received the amount through that letter, he was not at all happy. actually he wanted to be grateful towards God for giving that much amount, 70 pesos. But he was a little bit greedy at that time. He wanted the rest of the amount, and he considered the post office employees as crooks. That shows the conflicts between men. So through this lesson, you have learned the importance of faith as well as the thing that is not needed in our life, that is greediness. Thank you so much for watching this video.